Hello, Mr. Cole. This is Doc Treen from the All Who Control Cancer Center. Unfortunately, I have some bad news for you today. Your results came back yesterday. It seems the cancer has spread. It is in an aggressive state. Now, we are waiting upon one more result, but we feel this will not be too positive either. Are you with your family today? Please, Mr. Cole, considering everything, it might be in your best interest to spend some time with them now. This is a very hard question, Mr. Cole. Considering your test results, possibly 3 to 6 months. I understand, Mr. Cole. This is a very hard situation and it's a lot to take in.
And I'm wondering if he came around. And I greet him with a smile or a frown.
Given the bad news that you're about to die, I would have taken anything that they would given me on that day, or even that following month, because obviously, as you can appreciate, it's quite a turmoil.
He had to break the law because this was the only access that was available, and that's what it's forcing people to do. It forced Mary and I to be criminals, to help Mary's MS. And it's forcing other people to do that.
I think the governments, many governments across the world, have been really rather sadly behind the times in realising the potential of cannabis and forcing people with serious, long-term, painful, disabling medical conditions to have to criminalise themselves in order to obtain a natural and really quite safe product.
I think you have to inform the people, tell them what it is, and maybe start early, maybe start on the high schools. You got medicines, you got herbs. There are so many benefits coming out of nature.
Why do you think cannabis is such a misunderstood medicine?
It's not
propaganda.
Yeah.
For
Depends
long
who you
time.
talk to.
Yeah.
I don't misunderstand it.
One thing that we know that cannabis cannot do is that you have an overdose. It won't kill you.
Okay.
Of an overdose, okay? Not like other dangerous drugs like coffee that can kill you. If you take 6 pots of coffee, you will die because of an arrhythmia, okay? With cannabis, this cannot happen.
Sometimes I despair that in this world the marijuana plant would ever become really legal everywhere. I would just be so happy if it would just get normalized, you know, that you didn't have to have all these big discussions.
Everybody knows why cannabis was illegal. It was illegal because the US government wanted cotton, and hemp was in war with cotton. And they used a lot of dirty tools to make it illegal, and it has grown inside every people's minds that it's a bad thing, it's you kill your family when you're a cannabis addict.
Let's go, Jack, I'm red hot. Better be careful how you drive it. The first thing you know, you'll be ice cold.
Cannabis does not make you an addict. I have smoked cannabis since I was a teenager. I almost take cannabis every day of my life, and I'm not an addict. I can be a week without taking cannabis, and it doesn't affect me. I'm a tobacco smoker, and if I don't smoke tobacco in 3 hours, you wouldn't want to be in front of me. So that's the same with painkillers, with prescription drugs. There are really worse than cannabis, but people just don't know it.
Now being involved with it, yes, I did my own research into it and looked back as to why it was made illegal. And it's quite clear as to why it was made illegal. I mean, there's several different stories, but at the end of the day, it's just to suit big business and basically a medicine that is for free, that can be grown in your back garden or in a ditch or in a hedge or whatever for practically nothing, can cure an awful lot, or help with an awful lot of ailments throughout the world. So therefore, why would they promote or allow the growth of this plant when it would affect their profits from their sales of their Western medicine?
The reality is that cannabis gets people high, and as long as people have an intoxicating effect from it, the government's going to take an interest. And what we have to do is we have to normalize it. It's okay to be high, and it's okay for people. If the worst consequence of someone getting off of opiates is that they get high off of marijuana, that's it. That's the worst consequence. At least they're not losing their liver.
The highest risk of cannabis is that you have an accident because you are fuzzy or whatever. So in your particular case, if you are going to sleep, you take it, you start to prepare some tea or hot chocolate or whatever, and you just fell asleep, this thing is burning and all the building catch fire, okay? But of course you can have an accident without taking cannabis. You can fail in the bathroom and things like that. But you have to be aware of this risk. This is the most important risk. You shouldn't be doing dangerous activities under the effect of cannabis.
Talking about a medicine for sick people. And so it's the challenges is how do you use this medicine that has been grown in backyards and in people's basements and that's really freely available in this unregulated system, and how do you responsibly make it available in a regulated system for patients, and how do you do so in a way that you can test it to make sure that it's pure, that there's not contaminants in it? How do you make sure that people know what they're getting? How do you make sure that people are, have sound medical advice? It's a very challenging system.
Even with normal prescription drugs, these only work for a certain percentage of the population.
Yeah. It's designed
so you can't use that as an argument against cannabis, that not everybody does that, because with all the medication that exists today, not everybody reacts the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And they have to do another medication. So why shouldn't that be the case in cannabis as well, and why shouldn't they be allowed to try different things?
It's not widely known that the human body and other mammals produce their own cannabis, or the endocannabinoid system. We produce natural chemicals that the neuroscientists in recent years have discovered have a whole variety of functions in the brain. It controls mood, it controls pain, nerve growth, cancer, tumour cell regulation, all sorts of natural functions through this natural cannabis system. And so it has the potential to affect a great many neurological conditions, ranging from multiple sclerosis to motor neuron disease to stroke to brain tumours. A whole variety of things may be helped and are helped.
It's time for everybody to realize that cannabis is a safe drug, and we're taking alcohol, tobacco, painkillers, a lot of things that are legal and are much, 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 much worse than cannabis.
The most important thing we can do is educate people.
Yeah.
Because when we work with sick people, we work with people that never know about what cannabis is and not what asking for. So we know that a full plant extract is better than single component. But the people don't know. They know that cannabis helps for healing, whatever, So the most important thing we can do is to inform people all over, and they can decide, do I want this medicine I get from the doctor controlled, or do I want to grow my own?
I was working as normal one day, and just coming up to Christmas, and had a little bit of discomfort in my abdomen. It had been like that on and off for a number of weeks previously. It would come for one day and then disappear and whatnot, so intermittently. I attended a local hospital, and they scanned me and poked and prodded and whatnot. And at first they thought it was maybe a gallbladder problem that progressed in onto maybe hepatitis. And they weren't satisfied with that, so they decided to keep me in overnight, which they did, to run some further tests in the morning. A few hours later, one of the chief surgeons arrived, and with a ream of papers and whatnot under his arm, and pulled the curtains, and with a nurse behind him as well, so I probably knew that there was something was up at that stage. But he very politely told me straight up that I had colon cancer, and they'd like to do some more tests to confirm the extent of it. So this was Christmas Eve, I think, at this stage at 3 p.m, and they told me this. It's obviously not very nice news, but it was sharp and it was to the point, and I asked them how long I had left and how many years I had left, and they couldn't answer the question, and I asked them then how many months I had left, and they then said yes, it was a matter of months, but they didn't know, maybe 3-4 months, something like that. So they offered me chemotherapy, but the chemotherapy was stressed that it was palliative, and palliative being, if you want to take a literal translation, is life extension. So by saying that they would give me chemotherapy, couldn't say how long it would prolong my life by. I never really researched or knew anything about it and chemotherapy. So I took what was given to me at the time, and then embarked then on my own research then as what I could do with alternative treatments to counteract all the side effects of chemotherapy, the lethargy, the sickness, pain, vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, you name it, all the nasty side effects of it. They give you medication to counteract that. Unfortunately, that medication in itself has other side effects, so it's a long litany of side effects. So I started taking the cannabis quite soon after I started taking the chemotherapy, so within a matter of maybe about 6 weeks, something like that. So I was quite aware of the side effects of all the traditional medicines and the counter medicines for the chemotherapy and whatever. So I had a good experience of it at this stage. So eventually I introduced the cannabis oil slowly at first, because I obviously hadn't used it before and was a bit nervous about it. So I started using it, eventually used it a little bit more. Eventually it came to a position where I was able to drop all the counter medicines that had been given to me for the chemotherapy. Had stopped using all those, just used cannabis alone to stop the sickness and all the other side effects, and didn't need them. So a lot of the conditions that were created by the other medicines were non-existent anymore. So I had a lot better quality of life as a result of that.
I'm off the heavy chemo now and just on the maintenance, and feel much better. I'm in a much better headspace and a much better place. Some of that is, I think, is because I'm finished. I know I'm finished the heavy chemo, and some of it definitely is because of the cannabis oil. I feel more positive about the future. To be honest with you, I have more faith in the cannabis oil in helping me and curing me than the chemo. I wouldn't be brave enough not to take the chemo. I suppose being a nurse, I know the medical system. It's the only system I know, and for all its flaws, I couldn't turn my back on it. But as I say, hand on heart, I definitely think it will be the cannabis oil that will help me.
Originally, when you were just taking the paracetamol and stuff like that, it was only just for back pain, restless leg syndrome.
Yeah, my neck.
And then since taking the decarboxylated cannabis capsules, you just found that they worked a lot better?
Much better. Far better. In a better way. Because I'd only get, a few seconds with the paracetamol. I'd take 2 of them and I wouldn't get long. I wouldn't get a length of time. And it'd be worse. And my stomach then, I have an awful stomach.
Okay.
So then it starts killing me, hurting me. With the others, I don't have any of that problem. I don't have any.
And you don't feel
tummy
tired
upsets.
Or you don't feel fatigued? You
have
the energy that you still want to
have
work?
The energy, yeah, because I'd start with, say, 7 o'clock, before 7 mostly. And I'd work, we'd say, till about 2:30, 3ish. And I've loads of energy doing so.
the time, I thought, oh my goodness, it's growing. I wouldn't be able to grow it, and it'd be too much involved. It'd be too hard. That it was just so difficult. But this man reassured me that it was easy enough and straightforward, and my husband stepped in as well and said that he'd be happy to grow it for me, and I accepted his offer of help, because at this stage I wasn't in a good place and my head was everywhere, and I just had no energy. So my husband did grow it, and it amazed me at how easy it all was.
Cannabis is a very specialist field. You do need botanists. You do need a lot of different professions. You need biochemists as well. You need doctors involved. It's a fairly specialist thing to get the right product at the right purity to the right people. And sometimes pharmaceutical companies aren't necessarily the right people to do that. They may be, but cannabis growers often know a lot more about the natural product and how to grow that product in a pure and confirmed way.
And this room has about another 20 plus days left, so.
Nick Heiss grew up learning about potted plants. Now he grows planted pot.
Once they get a really nice root system, we pull the plants out and we plant them into one of these 3-inch cubes. So basically they're going from a 1-inch plug into a 3-inch cube, and we'll stick them in these for another week and a half to 2 weeks until we get really good root development coming out of these plants.
It's very important just to provide for themselves is one of our main focuses. Yeah. That people should be allowed to dominate, how they heal and choose. I can choose to sit and eat junk food at McDonald's every day. Nobody cares. But if I try to grow a plant to cure myself for incurable sickness, all of a sudden people have a problem with that.
That's the nub of the whole issue, is a plant that cannot kill someone being made available, that has health benefits, being made freely available to whoever the hell wants to grow it and benefit from it.
More and more patients are coming out in the open and telling the world what cannabis is doing for them. Moving and incredible stories. Like Tom Curran's story. His wife Marie died 3 years ago. She suffered from multiple sclerosis. After Marie died, Tom was able to tell his story why they turned to cannabis.
When she was on her full dose of pharmaceutical products, she was taking over 40, just under 50 tablets per day, over various times in the day. But at least 30% of those were to combat the side effects of the others. So we knew that the pharmaceuticals she was taking had bad side effects, so she had to take pharmaceuticals to combat those side effects. And that was no life. Cannabis was by far the best medicine she could get, both for the chronic pain that she was in and for the spasms. It worked perfectly well with absolutely no side effects, and that evidence base is there already. I look at the word drug and what is it? What quantifies something to be a drug? For instance, cannabis is a herb. It's a naturally grown product. So is sage. So is thyme. Does that make them a drug, or what is the properties of cannabis that has it classified as a drug? But I think there is this fear brought about by the Americans and our war on drugs and classifying cannabis as such a dangerous drug. And that's I suppose the fear that's there. That's the misunderstanding that a lot of people have. Even when it became public that I was using cannabis for Mary, the reaction I got from some of the politicians and some of the medical profession, particularly, Jesus, what the hell are you giving a dangerous drug like that to a sick person for? Whereas in fact it was the best medicine she ever had access to. And I think that's one of the things that's causing a huge problem with it.
We cannot condone your acts, and we can express only the hope that your experiences may not alone keep you, but thousands of others from the vicious pitfalls of marijuana.
We have to make every part of the world understand it, not just one part, you know what I mean? And that means trying to talk in different ways to different people. And at the moment we're dealing mainly with, you know, sort of people who are not from our world, who are growing stuff, who've got sick relatives, and they're really focusing on trying to get better. It's very hard to deny them help, you know what I mean? Especially when we've got the things that they're looking for, and we know the technique how to help them. But, you know, eventually this has to change. They have to be able to go to a shop to be able to buy their extract or something, like what's happening in America, for example, now.
In tough times, medical marijuana is one industry that's putting people to work. Thousands are growing, trimming, testing, cooking, and selling the leafy green plant.
It smells amazing. It's so... You're looking at a time when the economy is basically in the toilet. Real estate brokers, contractors, city agencies, insurance companies,
and yet,
suppliers.
People are still smoking pot.
Exactly.
And it's all regulated, all taxed, and all legal as far as the state is concerned.
So in Colorado, we petitioned the health department twice to add post-traumatic stress disorder as a condition that people could qualify for medical marijuana. And they denied us twice. And so we had no other option but to make marijuana available without to everyone, without a restriction on who can use it, because of the inadequacies of our medical marijuana system and how people are trying to limit it. So it's a fine balance of regulation of how do you regulate something in such a way that it doesn't prohibit patients who need it and not only prohibit the patients that need it, and all of them, or some of them, but also in a manner that they would like to use it. The struggle is, the struggle with medical marijuana and really making it accessible is that what we're really doing is we have to redefine the way medicine is. And how people who currently use medical marijuana now and what benefits them is a system that doesn't fit into our constructs in society. We don't have any other system where there's one particular drug sold out of stores. But that's what's helping a lot of people. And we don't have any other system where people are taking drugs and turning them into a form that best suits them. Like that doesn't necessarily compete with our Western values, or not necessarily with our Western values, with our Western pharmaceutical culture. And so what has to happen in order to really create a medical marijuana system that works for everyone is we have to redefine the way medicine is, or at least have a carve out of our current system that acknowledges this system.
When you look at the cannabis industry over here in Europe, and when you look at it over here in the Netherlands, and when you compare that with the US, we are way behind. And we used to be ahead. And when you look in the US market, you go into a dispensary, you buy your weed over there, you see everything what's inside, all the percentages of THC, CBD, etc. I know exactly the entire process, where it's produced, and you can see everything. And that's a big difference between us, Europeans, and the US market.
In the States, many states, the doctors simply recommend the product, so they're not actually prescribing it. So therefore, it's really the person who takes that risk, tiny risk, but a risk of anything going wrong with the recommendation. It's very safe, and I think part of that is we really do need an educational program for doctors, because most doctors, understandably, know very little about cannabinoids, because it's not on the medical curriculum. So I think it's important to educate doctors so they can in turn educate the people who want the drug and the product and tell them this is the benefit, this is the downside, you make that decision yourself. And that's an adult, intelligent way to go about things.
We're a laboratory specialized in cannabis. We do testing for associations and seed banks. We offer a wide range of analyses, which we perform in our own labs, for which we use the best and latest technology. And we can do anything like pesticide screening, terpene testing, cannabinoid testing, water testing, soil testing, or anything upon request.
Do you believe it's important to analyse cannabis in such a way that it lets the customers know and patients that they're getting whatever cannabinoid profiles that they desire for their ailments?
Sure, it is. It's really necessary. Cannabis has been an illegal market for the last 50 years, and the products that were available in the street were not as safe as they should be. With all the legalization movement, the American dispensaries, the Spanish associations, the Netherlands coffee shops, we should give the industry a higher quality standard so everyone can do a safe consumption and know what they're smoking.
In Holland, you're not allowed to test what you're smoking. When you have a coffee shop, you can't have a laboratory to test your own gear and put it and the test results in your shop. It has to be separate. And actually, the guys who are testing it, they're illegal because they have a bigger amount of cannabis, which they're only testing, in their company, and nobody's allowed to have that. So it's really strange. I think that should be a real good one, because when the people have the opportunity to test their products, you inform them, you wake them up. Come on, you shouldn't inhale molds or pesticides because, come on, that's not good. And give them the opportunity to test. It's an issue in Holland for a long time already, and I'm happy that a few companies are standing up now, even a little bit illegal, but they said, power to the people, give me your product, we'll test it, we'll tell you what it is, and that's what we need. Information, inform the people.
Basically, we have a protocol set up already and have had for the last 6 years since we came on the market, that we demand everything to be tested so people know exactly what's in the chemotype of the plant. We were hoping that many other companies did the same thing, or shops that are selling marijuana do the same thing so people know, because we're dealing mainly with a sicker population rather than a recreational population nowadays. So of course, yes, we think that should be the first thing to be looked at, as well as starting with the right genetic. Of course, the same thing. It's very difficult to see what's inside things 5-10 years ago, but now we've got laboratories and we can come to places like CBD Crew with your stuff. We can get it tested, and then people know where they're beginning an extraction for their oils or whatever they're going to be starting to be doing. But not everybody does that.
There's now well over 100 cannabinoids in the plant, and we know a lot about one called THC, and we know a lot about one called CBD, and they have their own medicinal properties. And there's a logic, therefore, in producing a medical compound that has that purity about it that we know a lot about. But on the other hand, the other 98 or so cannabinoids and the other related chemicals in the plant almost certainly have a function. And there's some evidence that using a natural whole plant product may be better in certain conditions than just the single component, the so-called entourage effect, where all the components work together to produce a better benefit than individual components alone.
LOTHC, CBD. Would you like to come join with me?
So what we do here What we do here is that we assess people that is thinking about using cannabis for medical purposes. Okay, we explain them the truth about cannabis, what it does, what it doesn't do, the risk that it has, and also the risk that it doesn't has. Okay, so we can take an informed decision. With that, if you decide to take cannabis, we will keep assessing you, so you can get the maximum benefits with the minimum secondary effects. Okay, but it's always your choice, your decision. We cannot be your medical team, unfortunately. We have patients with different pathologies, with cancer, glaucoma, psoriasis, Crohn, many things. So the medical team that is treating you will be the medical team that will keep treating you. Okay. So we won't get in changing any medication. We won't give second opinions about if this kind of herb helps with cancer or whatever. This ask for a specialist.
Okay.
We will only assess you in cannabis.
Then what we have is, if you would like go down the line.
I like these chambers.
50% of the people that use cannabis for medical purposes get very, very good results. 25% of the people that use cannabis get good results. I mean, well, yeah, the pain has gone, but I feel very sleepy, so I cannot use it during daytime, but I can use it to sleep at night. I get rest, and it's, And 25% of people that use cannabis for medical reasons do not get results, or or the secondary effects are worse than the effects that they are trying to cover. So it doesn't work for them.
So a little bit of history here. In June of 2014, my then 10-year-old daughter was diagnosed with an astrocytoma, or low-grade glioma. So it was quite serious. She underwent a lengthy 10-hour operation, and they were able to remove 70% of the tumor, which was quite a successful operation. But obviously that still left 30% behind, and this needed to be taken care of with chemotherapy. She underwent chemotherapy for a year. Yeah, she pretty much had to go to the hospital pretty much every week, and it was not really a pleasant experience for anybody, especially her. So we were searching for these alternatives, non-pharma, and that's when I learned about the not-for-profit group based in Barcelona called CBD Crew. Lena and Elizabeth, two very wonderful women, and we got to talking and got to know each other, and they asked if I wanted to participate in a collaborative documentary sponsored by various people such as Dave from People Who Care, Ruben from BioBiz, and a couple other people. That's who provided me with this equipment, and I was all for it. Got to talking, and that's where I learned that according to the type of tumor that my daughter has, the astrocytoma, low-grade glioma, she would need a mixture of CBD and THC for best results. So this concerned us a little bit, admittedly, but as we all know, THC is the main active ingredient that gets you high, which is not something we really wanted to expose our 13-year-old daughter to. So unless it was really necessary, we were thinking about some other options, really. Though I'm quite supportive toward and feel very positive about the application of cannabinoids, CBD, and the like, and their use on tumors. In the end, my wife and I opted not to go this route with our daughter. In fact, we settled on another natural treatment called biscum, which is an extract taken from mistletoe, of all things. And it has a proven record of helping slow and even arrest the growth of certain tumors. So this experience has been quite positive for us.
Passionate final statement. Irish medical cannabis campaigner Vera Toomey shared the story of her daughter Ava.
My daughter's life was completely and utterly overtaken and controlled by seizures. Her neurologist told us she'd never walk, she'd never talk, she'd be in a wheelchair. They told us that we'd have to look into residential care for my daughter in the future, and that was what we had to accept.
Our little girl Ava has a syndrome called Dravet syndrome. It is an intractable form of epilepsy, which means that her seizures were completely uncontrolled, very unpredictable. Ava could have anything from 10 to 20 tonic-clonic seizures in a day, which would be the larger, more commonly known type of seizure. Her body would stiffen, her limbs would shake. Ava was getting these tonic-clonic seizures from the time she was 4 months old. Some of the medications had some rather minor side effects, some catastrophic side effects. One of the medications would have hindered her speech. One of the medications Ava was on, she had a terrible reaction to. She was in a coma for a week after that, which we nearly lost her that time, that was horrendous. Some of the other medications are part of the benzodiazepine family, which would be the sleeping tablets and so forth. So they lead to exhaustion, drooling, just not being able to take part in daily life, really. Even the addition of further medications didn't reduce the seizures or make her any better. Now, in October 2015, the consultant told us there were no pharmaceutical medications left to treat Ava's seizures. It was a terrible time. We had to think what we were going to do, and so we decided we would begin a petition and look for help to somehow gain access to medicinal cannabis the same way that people in other countries had gained access to it for their families. At this stage with Ava, her seizures had gone chronically. They were extremely bad. We were very frightened at that time because it was nearly a year since the doctor had told us that we had no options, and at that stage we still had no options really that we had knew that would work or anything. So when we were told by a friend over Facebook that the CBD was available to us in Ireland now, we went for it. We got it, we brought it down, and we had the bottle in our hands, and we were afraid to use it because we were wanting to just do the right thing for Ava, but in these set of circumstances that we still remain in, you cannot liaise with your doctor, you can't liaise with your medical team to talk about the CBD very openly or anything like that. But they had told us there were no pharmaceutical options, so we found out about how much the dosage should be, and we went for it.
I know Vera, and I know. Well, I haven't met Ava, but I know of Ava, and I've met Vera and her husband many times. And of course, I also accept completely that Ava is a young child, and naturally you're going to be very careful about what products and want the medical profession to back and to say that yes, this is right. But there is also plenty of proof, and it's used very extensively in America, and a lot of research has been done on that particular problem, Dravet syndrome, that it is known the right quantities of THC, the right levels of CBD and things like that to help that young child. I won't say cure, but to help and to stop the numerous seizures that child has.
In October, Ava's seizures went down by 90%, and she had 5 seizures in the whole month, and that was it. And we have been introduced to we've been introduced to another aspect of our daughter since October, because now Ava is beginning to speak. She's beginning to answer questions. She's brighter.
her colour is better, she's smiling more, she has 2 little sisters and a little brother, she's able to engage more with them, she is sleeping better, eating better, and I can just honestly say that when we started researching medicinal cannabis first, I didn't know anything about cannabis, and from the word go, I was always looking for something that might be dangerous, something that might be a terrible side effect or something like that, because we would have seen the side effects of the pharmaceutical medications and they were terrifying. So even though we are looking all the time at her, watching her constantly, all the side effects have been positive.
On a local level, decentralise this thing, it would work very quickly, because unfortunately there's sick people in every little village, and there's a lack of education of what options they have. You know, whether it's lavender oil or CBD oil or THC oil, they should at least know a direction that they could go, and they should be able to test what they've got.
And it's also the least harmful option.
Yes.
It's like whether this young girl that they're trying all this medication that they know have harmful side effects.
Yeah.
So why couldn't they give her like a month on cannabis, which has no horrible side effect?
It should be considered as a medicine alongside any other medicine, and realistically, if we were given the option of medicinal cannabis, and if we were given the option of many of the other pharmaceutical medications, if you considered them both and looked at the side effects that the pharmaceutical products create, and look at the side effects that medicinal cannabis products create, which in my personal experience with our daughter, small as it may be, are nothing but positive. You would probably choose the medicinal cannabis option because the side effects are nothing but positive.
Yay! Oh, here's
Me, when I started smoking, that was in the mid-60s. In Amsterdam, there was no weed available at all. The only thing available came in with the sailors, and it was from Lebanon, from Africa, and even from Colombia, I believe. And it was never came in as weed, it always came in as hash, so that's how we started. A lot of people were having small grows. They used to say there was 25,000 in Holland and 10,000 of them in Amsterdam. And I used to visit a friend out in the west, and in the front and the back of his house, you could see like 12 different grow rooms where little pipes coming out of windows and fans and everything. It was just so common at that time. And all these little grows were usually grown by people who loved the plant and put a lot of care and energy into it. And that's what came to the coffee shops. It was their friend who had the coffee shop, and it was all a very localized, friendly thing. I mean, it's beautiful to be growing anything anyway, and to be growing marijuana. Then the government decided that these people could lose their jobs, could lose their social security, could lose their homes even. So a lot of these small people just stopped. And that's what paved the way for the criminals.
The other thing that an awful lot of people refer to it as is a gateway drug. The kids start off on it and they end up taking all sorts of things, shooting up with heroin or whatever it is. But that's only because of the social model that exists. That's because if they buy it on the street, that same person is capable of providing with them heroin because they're all part of that illegal drugs movement. Whereas remove it from that, and I suppose, again, this applies more to recreational, but remove it from that, and it stops being gateway. It stops people having access to that next level of drugs, the dangerous, what I classify the dangerous recreational drugs.
The dried leaves and berries are ground up and made into cigarettes by a simple hand machine. The deadly narcotic is thus quickly and easily prepared for its market. the sale of marijuana is even more difficult to detect and halt than the traffic in drugs such as opium, morphine, and heroin.
Every country in the world that has some form of regulated cannabis, the necessity and the need and the requirements to have a system that tracks your cannabis, that tracks your sales, that proves that you can be compliant is paramount. We often joke in the US a lot that if you're really, really good at compliance, then maybe you can sell some cannabis. And that can't be more true in the US, in Canada, and other places that are regulating marijuana. And you'll see it, likely in Europe as countries want to move in this direction of regulating cannabis. They need to feel comfortable about where it's going. And it's systems like cannabis club systems that are really absolutely paramount in moving the ball forward on the legalization front.
Cloud, the Cannabis Club system is a cloud solution which we currently offer to clubs to help them regulate and control cannabis clubs in Spain. We're currently working in Spain, I believe Chile, Uruguay, and we've got some prototypes in Amsterdam. The idea is to have a system to help all aspects basically of regulation, control, integrated into some kind of cloud solution. Right now we're tailored towards clubs. However, we started also looking towards the American market and introducing seed to sale into our system. We're also looking at all kinds of integration basically, so that we have full control, full management, and full visibility of everything that's going on. We don't really have any limitations in what we can do. One of the things that we offer to our clubs, for example, is that we're completely customizable, and we really stick to this. So if a government was to come to tell us, okay, we need to introduce this kind of regulation, this kind of tax, it would be no problem to implement it directly into the system. This could be done for multiple countries, multiple systems. This is no problem at all.
But do you realize that marijuana is not like other forms of dope? You see, it grows wild in almost every state in the Union. Therefore, there is practically no interstate commerce in the drug. As a result, the government's hands are tied.
If every little company starts to do their thing, they all become specialised, they join hands together, we'll probably have a better organisation than what would be put together by a government by a long way. And we should be the ones to advise them on that,
It's actually a quite important process of the whole legalization that we step in and just say, here, this model. No, now we made this model. It works. So let us continue with it. It's a lot easier to get forgiveness than permission, as they say.
If cannabis was legal, I think that there would be less cannabis smokers. You can see the Netherlands, just a few people in the Netherlands smoke cannabis, and it has been legal for 20 years. You see Spain, it has been illegal for 35, and you can see everybody smoking cannabis. It would be more difficult for the kids to get it, because you wouldn't get it in the streets. I think everybody would benefit from cannabis regulation.
If the government really put their thinking cap on and actually admitted as to how many people use cannabis in this country and other countries, legalized it, allowed growers to form a business if they want to do that, and let them legalize it, let them take their tax cut from it. I would say, hand on heart, they would probably get more back from their money, or further money, than they would do in the current situation of big drinks companies paying zero tax in the company, exiting the country with all the profits, and not putting anything back.
Governments are really missing a trick here in terms of what they could be adding to their GDP just by legalizing cannabis, and taking it out of the decriminalization is really the worst of both worlds. It's not legal and regulated, so the government can't take revenue from it, and you're still kind of leaving it in the hands of unscrupulous people.
I don't know. I don't understand why the government over here in Brussels don't sit down and say, hey guys, look at all the money that already evaporate right now. And that's the thing which is good for them, and that gives us, the people and the users, but also the people who are in the industry and have to make a living of it, way more opportunities.
I mean, the Americans brought it in the first place, this war on drugs, but now they're becoming one of the most lenient people as far as availability of medical products like cannabis. So why can't we follow suit? Why can't we realise that this agreement that we have is flawed? Yes, keep it in there for things like heroin and other dangerous recreational drugs, but can't we just take cannabis out of it? Wouldn't that be the easiest thing to do?
Lo más interesante sería que se generara un sistema de licencias para la dispensación al público en general y permitir tanto el autocultivo para autoconsumo como el cultivo compartido en pequeños grupos como podrían ser los clubes sociales de cannabis creados aquí en España y que ahora mismo se están empezando a exportar a otros países del mundo.
From the point of view of rushing, I see we shouldn't rush. This is relatively new. It's relatively new to Ireland, but that doesn't mean it's relatively new to everywhere else. There's no need to rush. There's no need for these trials that we're talking about, because lots of that research, and particularly the research on how to implement, has been done in other countries. Other countries have made mistakes. We don't have to make those mistakes, but we can learn from what these other countries have done. We know that these people are quite prepared. We've been talking to them, that they're quite prepared to come to Ireland, explain to the people that matter, like the health committee and the people who are, and Simon Harris, the health minister, the people who are going to make the decisions on how this is going to be implemented, explain to them the pitfalls that they came across, how they resolved those, because it's been going on in countries all over the world.
We're here tonight talking about how we can help patients, how we can help their families, how we can help alleviate suffering. And the debate about recreational cannabis is an entirely different matter, and indeed one in which I'd have a very different view to that view I hold in relation to medicinal cannabis.
There is a subtle but critically important difference between the term cannabis for medical use and medicinal cannabis. I believe medicinal cannabis means oils which contain a high percentage of CBD and a low level of TCH. Traditionally, cannabis for medical use over the centuries is smoking cannabis. However, smoking cannabis is a gateway drug which often leads to developing more destructive misuse of drugs.
I would disagree with Deputy Harty. I'm slightly disappointed on some of the comments he's made, and I think it's up to this House now to act for the benefit of a lot of people, and I think it's a very, very healthy day for democracy in Ireland that we can agree on something very, very valuable to a lot of valuable people. So thanks very much. Thanks very much.
It's hard to believe that in a short space of time we've come this far, and it's people like Vera Toomey that has brought that about. I think it's just, I know we're not finished yet. There's a long way to go yet, but we're getting there.
This means the possibility of a brighter future for our Ava. Like, really, that's what it means, I suppose. If we can get proper, genuine, legal, unrestricted or carefully regulated access to what we need for her, sure, the sky is the limit for our daughter.
It's time they realise that there's good evidence behind that. We need to do more studies, of course we do, but we really must decriminalise cannabis use for medical purposes. It will help so many tens of thousands of people in every country. But I think there's absolutely no harm at all, and a lot of benefit in people producing their own, as long as it's guaranteed purity and content through such regional testing facilities. I think that's an excellent idea.
You choose the best thing for your child, you choose the best thing for whoever you care about, and for us this is the best thing, this is the best option, and we have a right to it in our own country. We need it.
Really, the lesson to be learned here is the most important thing to do is to trust yourself, obviously seek advice from professionals, educate yourself, and ultimately just listen to yourself, because it's you who decides, and it could make the difference between spending another painful year in the hospital or not. But really, your choice is the one that will be the right one.
After all that we've been through,
times we have been apart, nothing has changed, not at all. Eh? Oh, guess you cannot bend the tree when it's tall and strong. I say goodbye. It was nice to know you, but I gotta leave without you. After all, this time I thought it would be different, but I guess I was wrong. I say goodbye. Oh, it was nice to know you, but I've gotta leave without you. After all, this time I thought it would be different, but I guess I was wrong. And I thought we could spark the fire. Maybe this time we could take it higher. But I guess I'm just a fool in love. Certain things are best left alone. Hey, I said, oh, it was nice to know you, but I gotta leave without you. After all, this time I thought it would be different, but I guess I was wrong. Oh, I say goodbye. It was nice to know you. Oh, but I've gotta leave without you. After all, this time I thought it would be different, but I guess I was wrong. Oh, I guess I was wrong. Hey, hey. Ooh, I guess I'm just a fool in love with you, baby. Ooh, I say goodbye. It was nice to know you, but I've gotta leave without you. After all, this time I thought it would be different, but I guess I was wrong. Oh, I guess I was wrong. Da 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 da. Oh, I say goodbye. It was nice to know you, but I've gotta leave without you. After all, this time I thought it would be different,